Good morning.
Hey Martin, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Yes. I see my peak equipment in the background there.
You do. It's my favorite. I love it. I feel like I've
I
worked on
love,
so many different types of equipment, but when I found this one, there was no going back.
yes, I remember that from my days of Lifetime, just being like rolling it up, like pushing it onto the floor
Yes.
and just doing demos in the middle, like just like throwing down every ridiculously hard exercise to try and get some guy's attention.
It's 100%. And it's amazing how people like peel out of your way when they see you coming with this thing. Nobody asks if they could help you. They're just
No,
like,
it's
what is
I'm
that?
moving a fridge right now. I got this. Thanks. Right?
So true. There's all these like super strong men, and there's this little tiny like Pilates instructor just shoving this thing down the hall, and they're like,
That's your advertisement.
"She's got
Yeah,
it."
that's your
You're
advertisement.
right.
Like this, because those that must weigh like what, like 400 pounds?
It was when it was shipped to me, it was 500.
Yes,
So it was
exactly.
500 delivered, but I had the MVE chair too. So yeah, I mean, but they do make it incredibly easy to move. So
Yes.
testament to peak, right? That we can shove something like that around and it just like glides around, no problem.
Yes. It's so funny, just as we just dive into that conversation about how we get people into the studio,
Totally.
when you have like in that Lifetime setting where you're in a big box and you're a business within a business, you have this captive audience, like a little town that's walking by, and you're like, "Hello, I'm here too," right? So,
Yep.
but that strategy always, made me think about, okay, well, when I leave here, what is that going to look like? And I've moved on to boutique studios since then, and then had the challenge with as a personal trainer, what do you do when you don't have 500 people a day walking past your door?
I feel like you're inside my head because that is exactly what I discussed with a lot of people at this point, building your own business. I've worked for Equinox first,
Mhm.
then I worked for Lifetime, and it's so easy. You have these clients at your fingertips, and I enjoyed it because the clientele you would get walking past your studio to the cardio machine is the exact person that I wanted in my
Exactly.
studio because I'm like, your hip flexors are a hot mess, and I can help
Yes.
you, I swear.
Yes.
So it was the perfect match, right?
Right.
But I mean, the pandemic made everybody, it just changed so much. I think it changed our
Mhm.
clients, it
Yes.
changed us, and now I'm feeling it. Like I remember hiring people at Lifetime, hiring instructors at Lifetime, and being like, well, you have your clientele here. It doesn't get any easier. I mean, it
Yes.
is shooting fish in a barrel, right?
Right.
Especially if you're good. If you're a salesperson, my background was in sales. I spent
Okay.
10 years on Wall Street selling what I
Okay.
call iced Eskimos. But it was
Right.
literally that was if you could talk about what you cared about, people
Yes.
it was easy, right? And you
Yes.
could get people that cared about it as well, or you could convince them to care about it. And
Yes.
that's what I mean, my elevator pitch was that exact thing. Like, I'm not trying to convince you to do Pilates and only Pilates, but I see you, in your boxing class. And I
Mhm.
think this would really help you with range of motion.
Yes.
Flexibility is huge, so those sort of
Yes.
things, that was easy. That was easy for me.
Mm.
Now I have to try 20 times harder to just find somebody to listen to me. I can't just
Yes.
like grab them as they're on their way to this cycle class.
Right. Yes.
I'm like, will anybody listen to me? Can anybody listen to me? I'm like, on Instagram doing the best you can to try to get
Yes.
people. And I laugh all the time about that. Like, how are you supposed to? It was so easy. Now it's so hard.
Mhm.
But I did learn a lot. I mean, that you learn those
Yes.
tactics and you learn what to
Right.
say.
Yes. But what's interesting too is like it is that easy, and like you have this captive audience, and it's like, like you said, all that stuff. I agree with that. But then the cuts and the commissions and what you're paid out and what you're compensated for, we see, like it seems like it doesn't seem fair. Just being totally honest, right? Like it seems
100%.
like they're taking so much for you to have this captive audience,
Hmm.
and you don't appreciate that until you're on your own and realize that you don't, like, you have to do a lot of that work for yourself.
You do.
So, right? So
100%.
I still recommend when someone is starting out as a personal trainer or even with
Yep.
Pilates, you go do your go do your time. Like go, do your
Yep.
tour of duty in a big box gym so you could see all kinds of faces,
Yep.
cross paths with all kinds of bodies, and just get that experience under your belt and learn
Yes.
how to craft your story and your elevator pitch in that sense before you go out.
100%. I said this to somebody the other day, and I'm glad for him to repeat it. Being a coordinator at Equinox or Lifetime was like going to get my Pilates MBA. It was like
Uh,
literally they taught me business, and I
yes.
could never take that away from them. The stuff that they have in place is above, above and
Yeah.
beyond. They've clearly
Right.
thought through it. The stuff that they gave you on leadership,
Hmm.
incredible. I mean, the people that I
Yes.
worked under were just phenomenally supportive. So I would never take that away from them.
Yes.
However, it is I don't know how to say it in a nice way without
Mhm.
insulting anybody, but sometimes it's soul sucking in the sense that
Yeah.
you're like, I'm just always working and it's never enough, like the
Right.
numbers and
Yes.
everything. So
That's
that's hard.
fine.
You got to find your happy medium, right?
Yeah, and let's talk about that. And that's real talk, right? I mean, I think that when it's like talking about having children, and people say, "Oh, it's so wonderful," and they don't tell you their terrible pregnancy stories. Like you got to give people both
No.
sides of the story, right? Like pregnancy can get ugly, working for a big
Yeah.
boss gym can get ugly, and
Yep.
I think that those things are also things that build our character.
100%.
Right. Right. So, I
Agreed.
mean, like, I can say I've had some amazing, inspiring leaders in that space. I've had some terrible leaders, abysmal leaders in that space as well. And
Yeah.
all those things come down to what do we do with that? How do we handle that? I'm not knocking them. I still put it on me. How do I respond? And how do I build my character in those moments?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, and you learn as much from the bad as you do from the good.
Yeah.
There's like, there's the same thing in instructors, right?
Hmm.
When you have instructors that you work with, you're like, whew, well, you know what? That wasn't the best class that I've
Yes.
attended, but I
Right.
could always take something away from it. Always
Yes.
positive and negative. I wouldn't say that, but
Yes.
that, what? Somebody heard that and went, that works for me.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
there's always,
So
you're
funny.
right. It's how you respond to it that makes you the person that you are.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so funny. Noel. That reminds me of one time I did a talk for like a youth group, and I don't know why. I was must have been off that day or whatever. I did my talk, and then after someone comes up to me, they're like, "Wow, was that your first talk that you've ever done?" And I was like, "I've been speaking for years," and I was like,
Why?
"No, that wasn't." But so I mean, we all like not only just those bad teachers, those days when we're that bad teacher, like that day when
Oh,
we're off.
totally.
You know what I mean?
Your
Like
brain's just somewhere else.
your brain's just somewhere else. But like, it's just how do you like? Where's your resilience? How do you bounce back from that? And how do you stay consistent
Mhm.
and make those adjustments and continue to move with it? So there's a
Right.
comment here. I totally agree. This is ultimate serenity bodywork. I totally agree.
24-hour fitness. Yep.
Yeah, yes. I put my time at 24-hour fitness as a trainer and learned a lot, and it was
It
all
was
about
all about
numbers.
the numbers.
I'm not
Yep.
afraid to talk about the numbers though. I'm fine with it being about the numbers because we
I,
get into this warm fuzzy place where we don't care about the numbers at all when we're on our own.
right. I agree with you. I mean, coming from Wall Street, talking about numbers and money was not a problem for me at all. In fact, I enjoyed it. And a lot of instructors that I hired, new instructors that came on, I would say to them, I understand that you don't like doing sales. I get
Hmm.
that. But you have to learn to talk about it because if this is going to be your career, you
Yes.
should feel like you're owed that money, like that you're worth what they're paying for you, and you are, because you're
Yes.
here, right? And
Right.
we're having a conversation, you've been hired, whatever the case may be. But what I took from that comment is that when it becomes all about the numbers, like in my situation, you get to the
Hmm.
end of a month, right? And you've beat your goal or hit your goal,
Right.
whatever the case may be, that was put out for you by somebody who maybe doesn't know what's actually going on in the studio.
Sidebar.
They
Yes.
sidebar. We can have a whole other discussion on that. But
We
then
can.
the bar gets raised, and then the bar
Yes.
gets raised, and then the bar gets raised. And if you don't celebrate the victories, which I think my manager was really good at celebrating the victories, but if
Hmm.
it doesn't, not everybody is, and it feels like that. It becomes about the numbers, and you don't take a
Yes.
30 seconds to celebrate the fact that you did it. And we have
Right.
to think about that as business owners too.
For
It's
sure.
smaller victories, right?
Hmm.
Because we're not hitting the goal numbers that the big box gyms are hitting, but we maybe you got a new client. Like I went on Instagram and I finally got my first client from
Yes.
Instagram.
Yes.
celebrate the victory and move on.
Right.
Like, that's fabulous. Keep going, but take the time to be like, something you're doing is right. Good job, Noelle. You know?
Mhm. Well, and it's funny you say that too, because even in that sense of being driven by the numbers, the times that that's happened to me, when you step away, obviously we have this wisdom from now being out of those contexts, but it wasn't the fact they were pushing numbers, it's the fact that you weren't being appreciated
Yep.
ultimately is the thing.
Yeah.
Like, because everyone knows that the first of the month is National What Have You Done For Me Lately Day, right? So it doesn't matter, right? Like I could have beat the goal by 40%, and then the first turns around, it's like, okay, so what have you done today? If they didn't stop and
So true.
appreciate me
What's
for
your
a
plan?
second,
Hmm.
right? Like it's like
So
that's
true.
really what it comes down to. It's just the appreciation. Did you make the effort to appreciate me? Then I'll chase whatever number you want
Want. Right.
because I was
Right.
appreciated in that moment.
100%. Yeah, I mean, sometimes they talk about like, well, I was I mean, I'm old. I like to think I think I'm old. But I was a put my head down and work. Like,
Yes.
your success is what you do.
Yes.
Under promise and over deliver.
Right.
And that was what I was taught. You show up, you get your numbers done, and my numbers will speak for themselves.
Yes. Head
That's
down,
all
get
I
it
need.
done.
Head down, get it
Yes.
done. But there's nothing against millennials. They have different um, skills and
Values.
skill sets. But that
Yes.
appreciation thing is really a big deal to them. And I couldn't understand that initially. But now I get it. Like, I do get it.
Mm.
I understand. Like, sometimes you just want to be, I think it's part of being a mom. Sometimes you just want to hear somebody say thank you. Like, that's like,
Yes.
I get it. You're working your butt off. Thank you. I appreciate it. And we'll move
Yes.
on. And I
Right.
will hustle again.
Yeah.
But yeah, a thank you really goes far.
Yes, it does. It really does. Yeah. So the no, like Nanette said, knowing your worth, it absolutely is that. And I'm saying this too, like for myself, like just full disclosure, like I can move on and I could do stuff without that expression of appreciation
Okay.
because I'm internally motivated. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't feel good when someone says thank you.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's
Yep.
still like it still has value, even if my life doesn't depend on it.
Correct. And as a manager, you need to know that people are driven by different things.
Yes.
And that's hard. That's hard to learn, right? Because I'm definitely driven. I'm definitely financially driven and money driven. But
Mhm.
my other instructors that I had worked with me might not be.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Everyone has different levels of like their own like business acumen and stuff like that.
Right.
And so you don't necessarily need to name drop right now, but is there
Mhm.
anyone that you would recommend in the Pilates world that has a really good handle, not on marketing, but actually
Mm.
on business?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel
Yeah,
like it doesn't pop into my head right away, but the
which is
second
fine.
I walk away from this video, I'm going to be like, I should have
Message,
said so and so.
yeah, message me
And then
something.
I'll type it in the chat once
Yeah,
you
yeah,
put this up.
right.
But
Yes.
yeah, I'm trying to think really hard. I don't think business comes naturally for and I definitely don't want to insult anybody this
Mm,
way, but if you're artistic, which I think a lot of the best movers are, they tend
mm,
to have this artistic side. Business doesn't always come naturally. It takes a special person to be able to do both quite well. Um,
okay.
so yes, the fact that I'm scraping around for some at the moment is not a surprise, just because
Mm,
it's the nature of the business that we work in now. I didn't start
yes.
in this business. I moved into it, but my
Hmm.
background is business. So, you know what I
Yes.
mean? I feel like those people are kind
Absolutely.
of made, and it's not that people are naturally drawn to the fitness industry.
Of course not.
That's not
Yeah.
to say that there aren't a ton of
No,
them,
no.
because there
Right.
definitely are.
Absolutely. Yeah. But there's no one who's doing their MBA right now that says, as soon as I'm done, I'm opening a Pilates studio.
Correct. Yes, I agree with you. Maybe there's like one
Yeah.
somebody somewhere, but
Yeah.
that wasn't the initial intention.
Right. Exactly. And Heather Erdman actually is a person that just came up. Like she,
Okay.
right, and she does a lot of stuff for like business and ethics, and she has a really profitable teacher training program. There's a few of them that are out there. Um,
Okay.
but I think just as I'm having this conversation, I'm thinking it through in my head.
Yeah.
It's fine to go outside of our industry to learn those things as well, right? Like If
Yeah.
you like go to a pure business coach or go to a pure marketing person, like that Neil Prasad I had on, who's the business development wizard guy, he has no clue about our industry,
But
but
it
it was
doesn't matter.
absolutely brilliant. And it doesn't
It
matter because they're all
transfers.
transferable. Yeah, absolutely.
100%. You have to you have to think hard about transferring it though. Like, I mean, it's
Yes.
sometimes it's hard to not have something handed to you on a silver platter,
Hmm.
which is like what the big box gyms did for us. Here's how you run your Pilates studio. But
Right.
to have that idea where he said the LinkedIn thing, holy cow, it blew my mind. I was just like,
Right.
you're so right. Those are the people that I need. I'm preaching to the choir here on Instagram, but the people
Yes.
on LinkedIn are the ones that need my help the most. Those are the
Yes.
people that are walking past my studio at Lifetime that are going to the cardio equipment
Right.
and had no idea what was happening. So that
Yes.
is my LinkedIn is my cardio equipment. I
Right,
don't know any other way
exactly.
to
That's
make the
exactly it. That's the
connection.
translation. So,
Yeah.
and for those who missed that conversation, and that was like I had a like a maybe like an hour conversation with him early in the week, just on the over the phone, and I'm gonna say it now, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, of course, that makes total sense." But for me, it was mind blowing in the moment.
It
He
was.
said he said to me basically like, "I do these conversations on Instagram. I have all my posts, and everyone that follows me is a Pilates instructor. So that is business
Yep.
to business. But then I put out an ask for someone to join my Pilates class, and that's business to consumer. So why am I spending all this time B2B when the reality
Yep.
is that I'm making money B2C? Move all of your business over to LinkedIn because that's where your executives
Brilliant.
are and your pharma clients and the people that would be on the treadmills. And you're doing nothing in your B2C land and you're doing way too much in your B2B land.
Yes, and you're expecting, this is the hard part, you're banging your head against the wall expecting a different result. But you're
Right.
still going back to what you were just doing that didn't help you in the first place.
Right.
Change your direction.
Yes.
Really hard until somebody says it to you. I thought
Thank
that, I
you.
remember listening to that and I was like, this guy's brilliant.
Yeah.
But how do we not see that?
Yeah, right, exactly, and it's right there. It's so, and it's funny too, right? Because like you, all I had to do was just basically just screenshot something from Instagram and put it on LinkedIn, and I'm in business because I already
Not
have a
rocket science.
LinkedIn that's just underutilized.
Correct. Yeah. Nope. I really thought about that one. That one got me. So like, I mean, what you're doing
Yes,
here is phenomenal. I completely agree with you. I love it. I love it because you just need a different perspective sometimes.
yes,
And you need somebody who can explain it well. Like they
absolutely,
could ramble on and you're like, I don't think I got it. Or you can sit through a workshop where it doesn't fall, right? It doesn't
yes, right,
connect to
right.
little pods of people that are sitting there, right? But
Hmm.
that one that Neil did was just so easy to follow and he really made it
Yes.
very easy, like hello, obvious.
Obvious. And don't you love that? Like those kind of moments are really fun for me to watch, like kind of step outside myself and look at because I've known him since high school. We played on the same
Oh,
football
wow.
team together,
Okay.
haven't really connected. And then you kind of fall into your area of passion and you get some expertise there. And then I'm looking at him, not like my buddy on my football team, but as an expert in this corner of the world. And I was
Yeah.
like hanging off his every word. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I
People
was like,
really
this,
impress you. Like, that's impressive, right? Especially
yeah,
knowing him when he was little. You're like,
yeah.
wow, you really got your act together. I'm
You
so
got, yeah,
impressed.
you're good at this, man.
You're
Like,
great.
yeah.
Yep,
But then
totally.
people do it to us too, right? Like I'm sure someone walks into your studio and then they may have known you from forever,
Yeah,
but now you're in this and then you make them feel amazing and they're
right,
like, wow, I didn't know that I could feel this good. And two, that you could make me feel this good, right? Like,
right. Exactly. Yeah. No, that's exactly the case. I mean, and to that extent, and I do know that when you talk to people about what's your ideal client, and I think about that all the time. And and there was something that you had said the other day. I can't remember on which um, interview you did, but it was like you said, does your Instagram reflect your ideal client, the people you're trying to pick up?
yes.
Mine definitely does not. Because my
Oh no,
ideal
of course.
client, and I've said this all the time, is that, and it's something I have to work on, but um, I love, well, I'll venture out and repeat what people have said before. My ideal client is somebody who's committed, right? Committed to making a change, committed
Yes.
to trying to understand the process of Pilates and see how it fits into their life.
Yes.
However, there is nothing that you can, and you'll understand this. There's no way you can really like there's nowhere else you can feel this, but like when you're an instructor and the first time somebody gets on a reformer, that like aha moment on their face when they realize how life-changing it is to work on this piece of equipment.
Yes.
That newbie, the person that's never been on a reformer before, that's my favorite client. Because I
Yes.
feel that like once they do that and they're like, this is amazing.
Hmm.
Are you like, this is great. Just the
Where
look
has
in their
this
head.
been
Sometimes
my
they don't
whole
even
life,
say anything
right?
because they're trying to process it, right?
Yeah.
That's my favorite client. I love that. And people think
Right.
that, oh, they want the great ones that they can teach,
Mhm.
snake, star. I don't want that.
Right.
I want to
Right.
explain to somebody what they're supposed to be feeling when their legs are in straps. Aside from
Yes.
awesome, let's try to
Right.
recruit the muscles that we're supposed to be recruiting from because
Right.
that's what you use every day, and that's
Hmm.
or what you should be using every day,
Right.
so it's those are the people that I love. And I
Yes.
think that maybe that's where you have to go. And maybe those are the people that are on LinkedIn, right? And so those are the ones I should be looking for. The ones that are following me on Instagram, they've already been on Pilates equipment. I see them doing phenomenal things every day. And
Right.
so that's some pivot that I have to make myself. But you made me
Yes.
think about that the other day. So that was helpful.
Yeah. Chase after that, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, at the and it's the hard part. I think the hardest part for me, and I'm sure you're starting to see this too, is there's other stuff that you're good at.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
when you chase after that, you're chasing after that at the expense of something else.
Right.
And it's almost like you're afraid to let people forget that you can do these other things because you're chasing after this.
Okay. Yep. I
You
see what
know what I mean?
you're saying. Yeah.
So now
Yeah.
let's say for example you're doing some work, you have like a young baseball player come in. You want to post all kinds of stuff about this young baseball player who's been doing Pilates for like 2 years, and you want to show that stuff. That's awesome, but that's not the person you're most excited about working with. It's just a cool person that
Right.
you have right now. Do you
Just a
post
cool
that or
person.
not?
Right. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I mean, I would. I wouldn't
You,
not because if it's something
yes.
I'm excited about, somebody else is going to be excited about it. And I always said, like, talking about anything that you're excited about is going to get somebody somewhere excited about it. If it's not the first person you talk to, you keep going.
Right.
That's how we are about Pilates.
For
But
sure.
that's going to open the door to maybe some other young baseball player who's never been on Pilates equipment before and said, that guy looks good. I played
Mhm.
against him. I want to do what he's doing. I want to see that girl. So hopefully that
Yes.
draws the client that I do want. It doesn't have to be, I mean, at this point in my career, starting this new business, I don't
It's
care.
a
Like
good way.
everybody's an ideal client. You want to pay me?
Right.
You're my ideal client.
Too
But at the
funny.
end of the
Yes.
day, I mean, it's very rare unless that somebody's going to come to you who's such a well-versed Pilates student. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I will find my ideal
Mhm.
through that person.
Okay, so let me challenge that. I agree with what you're saying, but just
Okay.
for kicks,
Oh
let's
yeah, I
let
love
me
it.
challenge that. Now, the second that you do that, if you really, really are excited about getting newbies onto your reformer,
Mm-hmm.
you and then you show this baseball player, and then next you know you have a room full of 12-year-old elite baseball players in the room, and you realize that I'm making some good money, but I'm not super excited about this. And these guys are destroying my equipment and they're running around and you just don't have that skill set.
Skill
You're
set.
making
Yep.
money and you've now wasted time because you still don't have your ideal client. You're busy, you're making money, but you're not fulfilled.
Right.
And we need to make money, and
Yes.
it's good to get these people in, and you might discover a new niche in it, but then you also know what your niche is and you chose to sacrifice that by saying yes to everything that comes down the line.
Yes.
So that's the rub when you're starting a new business, right? Like
Yep.
you just have to set the fact you're just not going to make money for a season, or if you're really trying to find
Right.
fulfillment 5 years from now, you're gonna have to make some sacrifices now. Like so, there's all these little
Yes.
pieces that not that I've completely figured it out, but like when I started to focus on
Totally.
men doing Pilates,
Mm-hmm.
I have some amazing female clients that are just doing great stuff, and I want to put it up and like I'm gonna put Hitton's picture up because I still
I
want to
have to
get more
figure out.
guys into my class.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Exactly.
Because if I put
Yep.
up the picture of Ela, then I'm gonna have five more women who be like, she looks so amazing, I want to do what she's doing. It's like,
Doing.
okay, well that's
Right.
cool, but then that's five slots that I now don't have for those guys that I'm really chasing after to get into the space.
Yep. No, I totally agree with what you're saying. And I think it's coming from different levels of, success and where you are in your career. Because there is a
Yes.
point in your career where you're just starting, like the ones that we send to Lifetime and say, put your dues in, take whoever you want, take whoever you
Yes.
can, right?
Right.
And then there's the point where you go, I'm secure, I'm
Hmm.
confident, I'm a
Hmm.
great instructor, I know
Hmm.
what I'm good at, here's where I want to apply it.
Yes.
So that does become, and I think maybe our ideal client shifts in our careers as
Yeah. Oh,
well.
absolutely.
You
It will
know,
shift with our own life stages. So the
totally.
question is, when do we make that shift from accepting everyone to build their business to
Hmm.
actually refining our business plan?
Right. That's a good question, because is there a dollar amount that you do,
Mhm.
or is there a
That's a great
happiness
question.
amount? A happiness amount.
Right.
You
That's the
know.
question. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyone in the
Pre-pandemic.
comment section, feel free to answer that for us
Go.
because
Somebody tell us what's
we're
the
talking in
answer.
circles now because we don't have the answer.
We don't. This is great. But it's funny because pre-pandemic, I probably would have said dollar amount. But post-pandemic, I would say happiness amount. And
Mm,
that's really how I kind of move my life around now.
yes.
We spent so long not working at all. Somebody said, you can't go to work. You may not go to work
Hmm.
for however long. And it was like, you panic for a second
Yes.
and then you decompress and then you're like, what do I want work to look like?
Hmm.
So it becomes a little bit easier, to
Yes.
say I'll be all right
Right.
if I choose happiness over a
Hmm.
dollar.
Nice. Recalibrate.
It is, yeah, that was a big recalibration, but
Mhm.
for sure.
Just waiting for some of these comments. There's a few comments that came through earlier that I flew over here. So,
Okay.
Ultimate Serenity Bodywork said earlier, finding a business coach that understands what you do and how to guide you is like finding a needle in the haystack. Yes. Well,
Go
and
see Neil.
yeah, go see Neil. That's definitely. But I mean, it's also like my wife used to say this all the time, like shop your instructors. Like when she was a group fitness instructor, she would say that to people, like you don't necessarily have to come to me. Shop your instructors. Find someone who
Totally.
works with you, right? So
Yeah.
maybe it is to shop your business coaches, to just have those quick consultations with them and just see if someone gets you and they're not trying to impose their plan on you, but they can hear what you're saying and make it make sense. Like I've talked to like on this show, I've talked to so many different business coaches and so many different people, but that B2B to B2C conversation with Neil was just like like okay, like like move to LinkedIn, okay, like that. No one had said that to me before, so that is finding the needle in the haystack. But I think that journey is not a bad thing. I think it's fun to actually have this conversation because you will learn something from everybody along the way if you're looking for it, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. How did you find Pilates?
Good question. Um, I was funny. I put up a post a little while because I thought it made me think about it. I was a gymnast from the age of 2,
Yeah.
and I feel like that does tend to cross over a lot. But what we were doing for conditioning in gymnastics was Pilates, but they weren't calling it that. And
Right.
so I look back on it now and I'm like, oh, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of flexibility work, but like it was the equivalent of like the ab series or the 100 or some kind of version of that was core control.
Yeah.
And I remember I must have been like somewhere around like 12 or 13 years old. Doctor said I had spondylolisthesis. No more gymnastics. You are done. So I
Ooh.
tried every other sport in the world: volleyball, basketball, lacrosse. I played volleyball in college, actually, Division I volleyball. But there was
Wow.
nothing that could substitute that.
Yes.
Um, that that feeling. I don't know. I guess I don't know how to explain it. You can't explain it unless you are that type of mover and you realize how gratifying it is to have that sort of control over your body and
Yes.
your movements and the success that your brain has when you accomplish something like that.
Hmm.
So I think I was really lacking it. I remember I couldn't watch, actually last night I was watching the men's, like I think it was Olympic trials, and that was the first time I really sat down and like watched gymnastics, because I think
Yeah.
for years I couldn't even go back to it because it like ripped my heart out that it
Yeah.
was something
Absolutely.
I thought I was going to do it in college. I thought I was going to take it pretty far. I mean, I knew I was too tall, too tall and too old for the Olympics at the time, you know, when I realized that, but at 13, you know, you're already set on your path by then. So I was like, you know, this is tough, but Pilates filled that void in a very different way. I mean,
Yes.
it challenged me physically and mentally. It must be, I guess the best way to explain it is it filled that mind body connection that
Yes.
I wasn't getting from the ball sports. Not
Yes.
saying
Other
you don't
movements.
need your mind, you
Yeah.
know, but it was a different connection.
Yes. A different demand on your body and mind.
Completely different. And yeah, and with the back pain, I mean, I didn't even feel like I was in pain, which is why I think it hurts so much when the doctor
Yes.
said no more.
Hmm.
Because I wasn't really terribly affected by it, but he said, if you continue down this path, you will be affected by this. And so at 13 years old, you have to understand that my body isn't made for X, it's made for Y, but I love X. How do I make Y make me happy? You know, so
Yes.
that was hard to understand at that age, but it did evolve into that. And I think Pilates I didn't find until late, I would say like college
Mm.
aged. And it was definitely I was the most inflexible human being in the world because I was sitting at a desk right after college. So I'd get this job on Wall Street and I sit at a desk 8 to 9 to 10 hours a day. And then if I had a small amount of time to work out, it was running. And so when I would take, and I think I remember I was a member at Equinox and I took a Pilates class with an instructor. I still, to this day, I'll never forget her. This woman changed she literally was like the reason I joined Pilates. Her name is Marianne Ferrari, and she was an actress. And I
Okay.
remember thinking like, holy cow, this woman is just, she was it, you know, and she had this great
Yes.
personality. And like you said, shop your instructors. Her personality spoke to me. We did
Hmm.
Pilates for the first time, and she's like, you are so strong, but you cannot muscle through these moves. Otherwise, you are not doing the work. And I was
Mm.
like, I'm doing it. I did it. And I've accomplished, you told me to make this
I
position.
like,
I did it.
yes. I made
And
this
she's like,
shape.
these
Leave
like
me
two
alone. Right.
Italian girls yelling at one another.
Right.
And I was like,
Yes.
I can do it. And she was like, no, you can't. So I remember one time, I think I was just in a bad place mentally that day. I think I was stressed out by work or whatever the case may be. And I broke down and started crying in the middle of a
Oh.
Pilates session. And she's like, are you okay? And I was like, I just don't understand why I can't do this. And
Mm.
she's like, because you're trying too hard. Just take a breath, stop trying so hard to muscle through something. And you know what? It's so funny because that was my life. I was muscling through life. And I think it just all hit me at the same time.
Yes.
And I was like, you can't fight your way through life. Like you can't fight your way through Wall Street. Well, like, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think it all hit at the same time. And Pilates became
Wow.
this. I remember seeing her and thinking to myself at that point, that cry, the next day I was like, I just want to teach Pilates. One day
Yeah.
I'm going to be a Pilates teacher. It was like 11 years later
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
actually happened. And I was working at the same Equinox that I took classes at as a coordinator. And I was like, holy crap, the things we put in our
Wow.
head, you know, that
Yes.
you do, you didn't even intend to do it. It wasn't like, I'm going to make my dreams come true. That wasn't really the thought in my head. All I thought
Here's my
was,
vision board. This is the
no,
steps to take.
didn't do it. No
Right.
vision board. I've never had a vision board. I wish I could say I did, but I
Yes.
didn't. But it's funny when you plant something in your head. And like I said, that my personality is put my head down, do my work, and get wherever that takes me is where it takes me. And that
Yes.
happened. I guess I put it in my head, put my head down, started working on it, and was like, I'll take more Pilates classes. And I'm like, maybe I'll get certified. Maybe I'll make that jump from corporate to Pilates. And it happens. You didn't intentionally do it and have a
Hmm.
plan as to when and how long it was going to take, but you
Yeah.
just start doing more of what you love and less of what
Yes.
you don't love.
Yes.
And it happens.
Tried to muscle through it.
I was muscling through life. There are so many people that do it, right? I mean, we all
Oh,
see
for
it.
sure. Show of hands in the comment section if you muscle through life.
Muscle. I muscle through parenting all the time. Just listen to me. Why aren't you listening?
Yes. Yes. So that's a continuing life lesson. It wasn't just like a definitive moment and now you just like let everything go.
No, nope, nope,
Nope.
not gonna happen.
Yeah. Wow. That's a great story, Noel.
I'm glad you like it. It's funny. I feel like it's the first time I've actually said it out loud
Yes.
and really thought through it. But that that's how it happened. I still follow Marianne. She lives in Manhattan, Inwood.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but she thinks she does more acting now than Pilates. But
Yeah.
she literally changed my life. I mean, it
Yeah.
was, and those are the people that we want, right? We want those
Right.
people. Like that's the client that we want. And we have no idea maybe 10 years down the road who we affected when we taught them and who we affected when we therapied them,
Yes.
as
Right.
they're sitting on the reformer crying because they're muscling through an exercise. And you're like, I think there's something deeper here. I feel
Yeah.
like you did talk to you said this, I think, in a couple of interviews the other day. Like there's something you think there's something else that you're working on.
Yes.
Like you're going through something else.
Yeah.
And you know what? If if that's how we work through it, then we work through it. It is what it
Yes.
is. We are different people to different clients each day.
Yes. Absolutely. That is such a cool story. That's well, because there's a saying that I used to use a lot when I was working with youth, not when I did that terrible talk, but another time. And I used to say that never underestimate the significance of the insignificant,
Oh,
right?
so funny.
So
Yep.
if she just says you're muscling through, and then you're just like, I muscle through everything. Like she might not even remember that moment other than the fact that you cried on her reformer.
Yep. Yeah, I had this client who just lost it on me today.
Yeah, she
But
goes
yeah,
to her
you're
lunch.
right.
She's like, "Wow, that girl at noon was a basket
Whoa,
case."
that was
Like,
something.
yes,
The other instructors are like, what happened?
yeah, yeah,
But
yes,
yeah, it is. It is. It's totally significant to you when you go through it. But it takes a lot. It takes a lot to see that. I mean, 12 years later, I mean, that I can tell the story to you and be like, "Wait, I never really thought about that one before." But that's how it works, you know?
yes, yes.
So
That's so fun. And and here's to having more of those moments with people, right? By just simply
yeah,
doing what we love to
what we do.
do. That's the
Totally.
conversation I had with Ed yesterday. If you get a chance to just watch that, like we were talking about just the awesomeness of being able to do the thing that we love.
Yeah.
And for him, it's a little bit of a different path because it wasn't like he decided, okay, I'm going to get into Pilates now. Is that he was kind of forced because of his situation
Right.
to find something else to do. And he already did Pilates. He's okay, well, I guess I'll do this Pilates thing online, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And then discovered that that is actually the place he needed to be. Yeah.
That's lucky.
Yes.
That is luck. But and again, I think that was the one where you talked about the vision board. Like there was no vision board. He
Yes.
didn't have a
Right.
vision board. It just happened,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so, that is that is phenomenal. I actually loved when you were talking to him about consistency and
Yes.
how, which is something I preach to my clients all the time. But he was probably a good person to talk to about that specifically because you guys rolled it into, I want to say, like it was talking about like nutrition and food and like consistency in every part of your life versus, I mean,
Yes.
granted, we all focus on the problem, whatever the problem is at hand, but
Yes.
that's what I try to instill it in my clients as far as consistency goes, consistently working on Pilates. And you had mentioned something about a circle of care, and I was like, oh Lord, I need to expand my circle of care because my clients have more than just one issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've got many issues, and sometimes somebody can come to me and say, I want to lose 40 pounds, and I'm like, fabulous, that is a phenomenal goal, and I'm with you, but I don't know if I don't think I can do that for you, and I have to be confident enough in my skill set to know that I'm not a nutritionist, and I have
Yes.
to be able to refer that
Mm-hmm.
person out to a nutritionist, and I thought about that. So I don't have to solve everybody's problem, but I
Right.
do have to instill, if I can instill consistency in movement, then
Mm-hmm.
maybe I can help with the
And that
consistency in
transfers to every,
diet,
yes.
but that's not really my job. So I kind of have to be careful with the idea that like I can't fix everybody and everything. I can't be everything to everybody, and
Right. Yeah.
stick with what you know, kind
Yeah,
of thing.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. No, it's true. And that's something I said yesterday too. That wanting to be everything to everybody comes from a place of love. It doesn't come from a place of pride, right? And I always had to, I think I just need to always say that piece because it comes across as prideful, like I am the end for every client. Like all you need is me. It's not that. It's like, I just really want to help you. Let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. And then we almost don't want to let them go, right? Like knowing that they
Yeah.
are going to come back just because they trust us because we've entrusted them to someone else, right? So
Yes.
yeah, yeah, it just needs to be
Yeah.
said, you know? So
Totally. Yeah. And we try so hard. I mean, that is the nature of us as movement healers to an extent. You know, we want to fix. We're fixers. You know,
right.
we fix
Yeah.
problems, we fix whatever we can. But at that point, you have to just go like, I'm not the one for you.
Right.
You know.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Here's a comment here. My teacher, Pam Garcia, always tells me to make it
uh,
look easy.
I know Pam Garcia. She's
Pam,
phenomenal.
yeah, she taught me originally too. So,
Did she? Oh wow.
yeah, I'm like, I don't know how. It's my goal to make an exercise look easy. It's a journey. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I'd
There
like to have a
is
chat with her too. Like, I haven't talked to
you
her since, like,
definitely.
yeah, she's so funny.
Definitely,
She's,
definitely. I feel like you would get a that'd be a good one. I'd
yeah.
listen to that. She's a good personality.
She's wild, eh? Like I think I told the story before, but it's so funny. Like one time we were doing our modules, and she had me stand up in front of the class to talk about maybe like a shoulder engagement or how we get our lats engaged and stuff. And so I'm doing that, and she's like, "Take your shirt off." I was like,
You do what she says.
"Right, thank you."
I don't. I would.
Right, I know it. And so yeah, you do it, and she's pointing to muscles, and she's talking about this and this and this and this. Is okay. You sit down. Thank you.
Put your shirt on.
Sure, I go back. Yeah, like nothing indecent whatsoever, but like it was such a shock of like, okay.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
when you have like, I mean, we all have worked in studios where we just wish we had those like something on the wall that we could point to and explain to our client, well, this
Yes.
is what you're not doing. This is what you are doing. If
Yes.
you have a live one of those in front of you, you use it. Use
You
what you
use it.
got. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
No
It's
problem
so
with
funny
that.
though. Like, yeah, everyone else is just like, okay, let's right
Was it a
then.
room full of female
It,
instructors
it
too, and you were like the
was.
only man? Yeah.
Yes.
So welcome to the world. I mean, I get welcome to Pilates.
Yes.
It's funny that you mentioned that, and it segues nicely into this something I did want to bring up. It was so I do have a decent amount of male clients. I feel like I've always tried to gravitate towards them. I don't know if it was because I spent so long on Wall Street, but I feel really comfortable around men,
Sure.
working with men, personality wise. Just it tends to match really well. So I have a TPI certification, so I really like working with golfers.
Golfers.
The majority of golfers are men.
Yes.
So it was my way of sneaking men into the Pilates studio by
Yes.
promising them that it would improve their golf game. And what they would come away with is like, oh my goodness, I can't touch my toes. And I'm like, that is not a problem with your golf game. That is a problem with your life.
But they're
We need
like,
to work on
right,
that.
right.
Like, this is like
Yes.
a bigger issue here, buddy. So
Right.
like, like you said, I mean, you start a guy in for one reason and he stays for another reason, who the hell
Yes.
cares?
Right.
Why? You know,
Exactly.
he's there and you got him. So that's something that's interesting to me. I'm curious though, like, so one of my clients said to me just the other day, he was like, I'm comfortable in a class with women. He's like, I'm fine with that. It doesn't bother me to take a class that has 4 other women in it, right?
Sure.
But he said what tends to happen is that most instructors will gear the workout towards body parts that women want to work on, and men want to work on different body parts. And he was like, when I
Yes.
was shopping for instructors and I found your class, you did a lot of upper body like work, upper body, upper back, and arm work. And he's like, that's what I wanted to do. And like, you
Yes.
never left that out of your class. And I was like, oh, that's good to know. He's like, so that's why I'm still with you. I was like, great, good to know. I'm
That's
glad
good
to hear
feedback.
that, because
Yes.
to many things, it's great feedback, because now I know that I
Mhm.
won't skip arm work even in a class with women. I don't intend to do that. But I'm
Right.
curious what you think when men come to you, because you probably have more than the average person does. What do you find that they want to work on, and what do you find that they need to work on? You give them what they want, but then you got to sneak in what they need.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I remember taking classes that were primarily women classes, be the only guy in the room,
Yeah.
and we spend way too much time on saw, spine stretch forward, on the reformer, on stomach massage, and my hip flexors would be killing me,
Yep.
absolutely fatigued, and there's no one's addressing the shortness of my hamstrings or the shortness of the muscles of my back that are causing my quads to overwork.
Yep.
So those sort of things would happen, and it's like they don't even speak to it, let alone give me something to feel good about. You know what I mean? So if I was dying through 3/4 of the class with all these things where I need to sit up taller and then I'm slumping into my
Yes.
back because my hip flexors are overworking, and then we don't even finish off with push-ups so I can feel good about myself,
Self.
I walk away like this is a whole
Defeated.
class was just defeated. Right, exactly.
Hmm.
So there's that sense of, yes, throwing the arm work, throwing in some challenges where the guys can feel some sense of success. And maybe
Right.
even say like, this is an advanced exercise, but you guys look strong enough. I'm going to give it to you, even though it's your second day sort of thing, right? Like,
Right.
so they get the sense of, because I mean, even the labels of beginning, intermediate, and advanced are almost like marketing strategies to get people to buy bigger classes or whatever it is. Because there's some advanced exercises I could do in my sleep, and there's some beginner exercises that I'm never going to master
Right. Can't muscle through them.
because I can't muscle through them.
Yep.
So that's it. So I feel like even like my workshop, shameless plug for my workshop on push-ups.
Hmm. Yeah.
For a
I heard you say
guy, you can do that, and then you can work on refining the movement. They can feel good about it, but then you can introduce women to it, and they can feel competent with it. I think a
Definitely.
lot of the classes are shifted the other way. So like women feel good about it because now we're going to work on your buns, and now we get to work on that flat tummy. And guys are like, I don't care about my flat tummy. I want to be better on my swing for hockey on the weekends, right? So
Yep.
how do we how do we mix it so that we can address those things? And I know that like hip flexors is one of the prime ones, or short hamstrings. So I
Yeah.
gotta, I'll try and sneak those in for thinking about the guys, but then also give the strength challenges and do the same, right? So in the same way that I'm assuming that the women are going to have an easy time with saw, and then
Hmm.
the guys can have an easy time with push-ups. Then how do I speak to the opposite that might be struggling in that moment, right?
Right.
So
Right. No, I completely agree with you. I mean, it is a mixture of what they
yes,
want and what they need in every
yes,
client, right? But men are a little bit more. You got to make them think that it was their idea dealing with
yes.
men.
Yep. Yeah. So, but that's exactly it, right? So, I mean, I love that. I love that we're using that golf as the hook to get them in, and then they
Right.
recognize that their whole body's going to feel better. Um, that's why we say like Pilates can change your life. It's just a catalyst for every other change,
Totally. Yeah,
right?
it
So,
is. It's that mind body connection that I think a lot of other sports don't have,
right.
you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Ultimate Serenity Bodywork, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for your input through the conversation. It was really, really insightful stuff. And Noel, that was amazing. It was such a fun chat and such a great way
So
to
good.
finish this week.
Not nearly as scary as I thought it was going to be.
Hey,
You made it easy.
I don't know why people think it's gonna be scary. Like we're just
I
you
don't.
just
It's so,
you
yeah.
shared such an epic story too. Like I think you should like
I feel
that'd be a
better
great
now
post.
too.
Yeah, no, can have a good cry once we're off air.
Yes, I'm gonna crush it at the Pilates Summit next.
There you go. Nice. No, that is so cool. So thank you so much for our time. Let's keep these conversations going. Looking forward to have you on again sometime.
Absolutely. I loved it and I love following you and I love everything you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I'll see you on LinkedIn.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much.
Awesome, Martin. Thank you.
All right. Take care. See ya.